is exactly what my journey is. It's about climbing the mountain. And when I finally reached the top of that mountain, I looked out, I sat down, and I could feel the sun on my face. And I sat down and I was just filled with so much gratitude. So much gratitude in that moment. And then it brought me back to the day that I decided to take to attempt against my own life. And it brought me back and it brought me so much tears.
Hi, Soul Family, and welcome to my channel. I'm your host, Haji, and this is Amazing NDE Stories. Our guest today is Bianca Rosales. Rosales. I have no accent. Rosales. Okay. And I am beyond excited. I got to calm myself down, but she's here with us today. Welcome to the show, Bianca.
Thank you so much, Haji. I'm really excited to talk to you guys. I'm really excited to share my story.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, so Bianca, jump in and tell us about your NDE experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I'm gonna go ahead and start from the beginning. I grew up in a Hispanic culture. So I grew up Cuban. And so what that means for my religious background is that I grew up Catholic, and I also grew up with a closed religion, a closed practice called Santeria. So from a very, very young age, I had an understanding that I was guided and protected by ancestors and that we were always guided and protected by angels as well. But there was also this notion that there was a set of rules that we had to abide by. And if we did not, then we would be basically punished. We would go to hell, or we would receive a form of punishable karma. Um, and so as a little kid, I was a little traumatized by that. And growing up, I did experience personally different forms of abuse within my household. I just grew up in a very dysfunctional family, and lots of things were happening that basically, as a teenager, not being able to express myself or have a way to be able to, in a healthy way, communicate my feelings, my boundaries, to communicate what was happening internally with me and have a safe space to do so. I was basically I was basically creating this little bubble around me. And that bubble just kept getting darker and darker and darker. And I didn't really feel not just safe, but I didn't feel like, I didn't want to be part of this mean, evil world, is how I felt like. And so it just got to the point that by the time I turned 18, I was isolated. I was by myself, mentally and physically. And it just got to that point where in my deepest, darkest moment, the easiest path that I could see to end the suffering, to end the mental torment for me, and to end the suffering that I felt that I was causing to those who surrounded me, was for me to take my own life. So back in January of 2016, I attempted against my life. I did overdose. And as I go back and I think about how that process um, happened, I actually did it in such a ritualistic way because of my beliefs, because I felt like I wanted to be accepted into heaven and I didn't want to be punished for making this type of decision for myself. And so I made the I actually finished my classes because I was homeschooled. I finished my classes and I made the concoction and I kissed my grandmother and I went outside and I drew a cross on the ground underneath the chair that I was going to drink the concoction on, because I wanted to let the heavens and the angels and my ancestors know, like, I'm doing this because I want to go back to you, basically. And as I'm taking and as I'm drinking it, I could feel, as I finished, actually, I could feel this instant sense of, what did I just do? It was like an instant moment of regret. What did I just do? Why did I just do this? But that was quickly shifted into this, it was almost like, it was like I was looking up and I see this massive bright white light. And I don't remember having thoughts. I don't remember saying anything after that. I just remember feeling a sense of peace and calm as this bright light became bigger and bigger and bigger. It first started being a little bit further away, and then it started becoming bigger, 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 bigger. And I didn't see anybody. I didn't hear anything. I simply just felt this overwhelming sense of love, a love that I cannot describe in words. It's literally ineffable. Like, I have tried to describe it to people that I've told this story to years later, and I still cannot find the words to it. It's massive. It was overwhelming. It was all encompassing. It was a love that made me feel like I was part of that love, that I was that love. It was a love that was so beautiful and so peaceful. And it felt like a lifetime, but yet within seconds, I was in this place. And then boom, I wake up. I wake up back in my body. I'm in the hospital. I feel this density, this heaviness in my body when I wake up. And the first thing I see is like bright lights from the hospital, and then I see a bunch of nurses and doctors coming in, and they're restraining me because as I wake up, I'm now freaking out. I'm like, what? Why am I here? Why am I still here? Why did I come back? Why didn't it work? And I have all of these thoughts rushing through my mind because I have completely forgotten in that moment what I had just experienced in my NDE. So they're trying to restrain me, and eventually I go back to sleep. When I wake up in the psych unit. I was in the psych ward for about 3 weeks. Within those 3 weeks, even though I was surrounded by what people would consider lunatics and people who were completely deranged, I honestly felt like I was very sane, but I was also feeling very peaceful. I actually remember having a conversation. I had called my mother, or actually she called me. It was one or the other. We had a conversation over the phone during the time that I was in the psych unit. And she was like, "How are you feeling over there? Like, how are you doing right now?" And I'm like, "Actually, Mom, I'm actually at peace. I feel very peaceful here." And she just was like, "What? What? How can you possibly be at peace? Are you crazy? I mean, you actually might need to stay in there." I'm like, "Maybe," but I feel like the sense of peace just came from not feeling like I was suffocating, by not feeling like I was not in that same toxic environment that made me sick in the first place, and I was away from that. And so there was a moment that really, really changed for me because in the beginning, in the first week or so, I was so upset. I was so angry. I'm like, ah, like my family doesn't want me. God doesn't want me. My ancestors don't want me. Nobody likes me. Nobody loves me. Like, what is going on? I'm completely by myself. And then things started to shift as I started to feel this peace. And there was this one day where I go out into the garden, and I remember sitting down on this beautiful bench, and I see this beautiful red flower. I think it was hibiscus, I think. Just don't recall fully, but I just remember looking at this flower, and a voice came out of nowhere, and they said, "You feel that peace? That is the peace that you deserve to feel in every moment." And it was so strong, and I felt it to be a truth. It felt so true for me in that moment that I accepted it. And I said, "Okay, then this is so." And from that point forward, my question changed from why am I still here to why am I still here? The tone, the attitude, the perspective of that question completely changed into one of a victim to one of, you know what, let me discover why I was given a second chance. And that really jump started my journey of self-discovery. And, you know, again, I still have amnesia. I still don't remember what fully happened in the NDE at this time. And so I graduated high school, I decided to go to college, and then I start to have these experiences because I moved out. I said, "You know what? Let me just be independent and let me move out of this environment and let me see what I can do for myself." And in doing so, I experienced many things. I experienced lessons and people that, that I realized that I was repeating certain cycles that I learned as a child, and I was accepting certain experiences as what I deserved because of the trauma that I experienced as a child that made me believe that that is what was meant for me. And so in these moments and these trials and tribulations that I encountered as I was growing up, I felt like I was growing up. I ended up coming to this place where I was forced to my knees. I was forced to my knees and humbled. I was working for so I had ended up dropping out of college, and because I was offered a position at a marketing company that would train me and give me all the education that college would give me for free, while simultaneously also training me on the job and earning money. So I said, you know what, this is what I really truly want to do. Let me go ahead and go this path. And so working day and night, doing everything that I possibly could to climb the ladder in the company, to be the top dog. I was chasing money, I was chasing fame, I was chasing status, I was chasing what they promised me would be what would make me happy. And I believed it to my core, or I thought I did, right? But my soul knew something different. And so what happened is I got promoted to that position. I got promoted to the management position that I had worked so hard for. And within months, I was fired. I was fired for a mistake that I made that ended up causing the position. And I was humbled so much to my knees because everything that I had just worked for, all of the relationship that I had just built was all broken. It was shattered to pieces. And in that moment of just desperateness and not knowing what to do next, came that voice again and said, now it's time for you to walk your true path. Now it's time to remember who you truly are. And I remember because I was living in Georgia at the time. I had moved from Florida to Georgia. And I remember because in those 3 months that I was not working for the company, that first month was so hard. It was like the darkest nights. I was crying almost every day. And then after I heard that voice, I decided, you know what? Let me go ahead and go climb a mountain. Literally, let me go climb a mountain. So I ended up buying an Uber and taking all the way to Kennesaw Mountain. And it was like, I don't know how many feet, like how many miles up, but it was like 2 or 3 miles that I had to climb up the mountain. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make this trek. And I did it by myself the first time. I'm like, you know what? My soul wants to do this. Let's do this. And on the way up on that mountain, let me tell you, did I scream? Did I cry? Did I have moments of emotional release? And it was so visceral. In the moment I realized this is exactly what I needed. And this is exactly what my journey is. It's about climbing the mountain. And when I finally reached the top of that mountain, I looked out, I sat down, and I could feel the sun on my face. And I sat down and I was just filled with so much gratitude. So much gratitude in that moment. And then it brought me back to the day that I decided to take to attempt against my own life. And it brought me back, and it brought me so much tears because it made me realize this whole experience is on purpose. And the reason why I was given a second chance is so that I can create the life that I truly want to live my way. And I was given this beautiful opportunity to experience life the way I want to experience, not how anybody else says I should experience, not how anybody else basically has programmed into me that life should be, right? And in that moment, I said, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to climb another mountain. And there was another mountain that was there, right? And it was a little higher than the first one that I climbed. And boom, I climbed that mountain. And that mountain was way harder. And I came across snakes, and I came across, I scratched my feet. I mean, I came across all of these different things that made the climb extremely uncomfortable. But when I got to the top of that mountain, it was like, that's it. That is what life truly is about. It's about taking the hike, being brave, being courageous, going on top of the mountain and realizing that just because you get to the top of the mountain, there's always a bigger mountain to climb. And that was very true for me. And so the next couple of weeks, I climbed those mountains. I probably climbed those mountains like 6 or 7 times, literally, physically, with my physical body. I went up those mountains. After the 3rd month, I was actually given another chance at the position. And it was very weird because I was ready to move on from that, but there was just something that was still there for me to either to learn or to see. And so I accepted the position. And they transferred me up to North Carolina, and I stayed in North Carolina for a little bit. Learned a couple of lessons in love there. And then I was given the opportunity to come back down to Tampa. Within a couple of months of being here in Tampa, I actually experienced a life-changing surgery. One of my cysts in my ovaries ended up bursting, and it caused internal bleeding. And I had to go into the emergency room right away into surgery. When I came out of that surgery, I realized, you know what? I've been neglecting my health. Truly, I've been neglecting my health, and I need to really focus on that. Not just mental, not just spiritual, but really my physical health is just as important. And so beautiful how timing is. This was back in 2019, in December of 2019. Boom, 2020 rolls around. I go back to the job. Things happen where, boom, I decide to now say, you know what? Now I'm truly moving on. Now I'm doing something else for me. COVID happened. And I said, I now resign. And the reason why I was able to go back to the position that ultimately I left in such bad terms is because I was now going to leave on my terms, not on their terms. And then during COVID, as we were all isolated, a lot of people were not having a great time. I was having the time of my life. I was having the time of my life, rediscovering myself, exercising, really focusing on my health, really learning more and connecting deeper with my ancestors and connecting back truly to my roots and to my spirituality, and learning about herbs, and learning about different holistic practices, and learning about breath work. And I started learning all of these different things that I did not have any time to before, and now I had all the time in the world to. And then I became a personal trainer, and then I became a mixed martial artist. And in that process of learning and growing, I just ended up learning that at the core of who I am is a spiritual being having a spiritual experience. And at the end of all of this, and I still think this is like not even the surface of what my journey is going to look like and continue to be. But what I've come to know as I continue to go back into this moment of remembrance into my NDE, and things started to open up as I continued to release blocks and continue to heal and forgive and really peel back the layers of trauma that was basically driving my everyday decisions, thoughts, and emotions. As I was working and clearing and moving through that, it was such a beautiful experience of remembrance that, the kingdom within, the God that's within me, the Most High, is me, is everything. And that was the moment that I remembered that, and that actually happened through a plant medicine ceremony, but the moment I remember that, then it jumped me back into remembrance of my NDE and what I truly felt and that love that I felt. And I keep that remembrance in my heart every day, and knowing that all of this creation itself is love. And it made me be more compassionate, more empathetic, more willing to be grateful for each and every moment, to understand that every single person that comes into my life, whether it's in a split second or if it's a season, it's there for a reason, regardless. And for me, once I became more open-minded and kept my heart open, once I released what was in my heart and allowed my heart to open up, every single like encounter that I had was always so beautiful. And if there was an encounter that was a little bit challenging, and that's the way that I would say it, if it was a little challenging to my ego or to my emotions, it was just an opportunity for me to transmute it in the moment and see what is that person showing that it's within me that I am unwilling to see. And it was just basically opening myself up into being able to do this. And all of this would not have happened, honestly, and I truly deeply believe that, if I was not given that second chance and opening my eyes in that hospital again and feeling that rage and that anger of as to why am I here, and then seeing the polar opposite of that. Why am I here? And I am here to simply live and be happy and be joyful. And through my experiences, I can ripple effect. I can create that ripple effect. And I don't, and I also learned not to have a hero complex, because that was also something else I had to work through. It's like I have to save the world. I have to save everybody that comes into contact with me. And then realizing that no, simply through my words, my smile, my hug, my compassion, that's the way that I heal. And that is my mission, to be the conduit of unconditional love, to be truly who I am at the core, which is unconditional love. And in that way, in that sense of being, that is how I heal. And that is my mission, to speak my truth, to live my truth, and to have courage to tell my story, because for so long I was so afraid. So yeah, that is my story of my NDE.